This is Jacqueline Sheehan, and this is Writers Night Out, sponsored by Straw Dog Writers Guild in Northampton, Massachusetts. We normally meet in the basement in Northampton, but because of the pandemic, we're all at home. But we've selected 10 writers, and their work will be read by two experienced readers, Morgan Sheehan, adjunct professor at Smith College, Jacob Stewart, teacher at Springfield Conservatory of the Arts.
I've been a fan of Morgan and Jake's professional reading for 10 years.
A poem by Jane Schneeloch titled Accommodations. I have moved the art glass back to the table in the living room. It no longer needs to be out of the way of your dog's tail. The 2-cup coffee maker back to its spot next to the sink. The paper plates to the picnic supplies in the basement. You didn't like to wash dishes. I don't like to eat on flimsy paper. The stack of bulky Vanity Fair magazines to the recycling bin. I never read them because you said you had a thing about people reading your magazines before you did, and since I never knew when you had read them, I never did, but now they're old, and I don't care. Please remove the striped neckties from the chair, the spiny phallic cactus on the hall table, the pile of bills on the piano, the carton of Chinese noodles in the refrigerator, and, especially, the urn of your mother's cremains in the basement. I made changes. I accepted your idiosyncrasies as you tolerated some of mine. Now that you're gone, well, most of you anyhow, I'm still left with the question I've never been able to answer. How much does one give up to be in a relationship before one loses oneself?
The Grocery Store in the Olden Days, a poem by Patricia Lee Lewis. She said, "That's not the price I saw on the shelf." He said, "It's what it says here in the register." She said, "I want somebody to go look." "Okay," he said. "Just where was it?" "Oh, you know," she said. And I was listening pretty hard by then, standing right behind her in line. "It's over by the Greek yogurt where the whipping cream is and those push-button cans, next to the pudding in the little boxes and, oh yes, the tapioca." "I'll go get it," I said. "I think I can just about find it." "That's against the rules," he said. "It's okay," I said. "I do things like that all the time. I'll just leave my basket here, okay?" She said, "Thank you very much." I said, "No problem. It's important to pay the right amount." "I know it says $1.79 on the shelf sign." "Okay, I'll take a look." "How will I know you're telling the truth?" he said. "You won't," I said. "You will just have to believe me." "It'll be worth it to me," she said, "just to know." "My line is backing up," he said. "Okay, would you just hurry?" "Why isn't anybody answering the buzzer?" she said. "This place is a madhouse on Thursdays," he said. "God knows where everybody is, probably buried under mountains of macaroni in the back." "You seem pretty angry." "If this guy will just go look for a price, I'll be better. Please go on." "Sorry, it was such an interesting conversation. Sorry, I'll be right back." I almost ran to the back corner of the store where the Greek yogurt always is, but of course, it wasn't there. "Where is the Greek yogurt?" I asked a woman in a blue dress. She had many things in her cart. She would know. "How would I know?" she said. "It's over there," another woman said. She had on blue jeans and a sweater. Probably eats Greek yogurt on a regular basis. "Thank you," I said. "No problem," she said. I found the shelf. I found the price. I almost ran back to the checkout counter. "She's right," I said. "It really is $1.79. How much does that save her?" 15 cents, he said. 15 lousy cents for all that. "It's a big help to me," she said, and shook my hand. "My, you are shaking," she said. "You aren't used to running, I guess." "I have not had this much excitement since my father left home when I was 14, I said. "Oh my," she said. maybe we will meet at the grocery store again. How about next Thursday? I said. Okay, she said.
A novel excerpt by Shirley Nomakeo. In this scene, Ernestine Lambert has been sent back in time and finds herself in the body of Papa de Baya, the future wife of Viking Rollo the Walker, who's been kidnapped and taken to a village in Norway. Chapter 6, Day 6. After a peaceful morning, which consisted of a delicious serving of warm rolls and butter, some kind of raw fish that remained untouched, and mead, which gave her a blurred mind to reflect on her circumstance, she missed her cell phone. And if she was to look at this rationally, she had no way to document this incredible journey. Therefore, if her parents were ever to prosecute the Jarl for her abduction, she had nothing that would hold up in a court of law. She shook her head at the absurdity of that conclusion. Who would ever believe my story anyway? At midday, she was alerted to the possibility of more visitors. Women's voices permeated the air outside the hut, and a tray of fish stew and bread was brought in and placed on the table. Herring? One of the women was new to Ernestine. She was older, and seemed to be curious about her. Hilda introduced herself and repeated a few words, but soon gave up. Then she tried to communicate with her by using hand gestures. Ernestine placed her own hand over her heart in response, and tears formed in her eyes. Hilda dried them with her apron. The woman smiled and gestured to the seat at the table. Hilda placed the hot stew and warm bread before her, and moved her hand to her mouth and back down to the bowl. Ernestine smiled and nodded. She wants me to eat this stuff. She hoped some of the items floating in the stew weren't of the same origin that still sat on the plate from breakfast. She's not Papa's mother, but she's someone's mother. In order to assist her, she had pushed the cloak over her shoulders, and Ernestine admired the oval brooch that held it in place. Her ochre gown was mostly covered by the apron, but it was of a high-quality material. She must be a woman of some importance. Then the Jarl returned. Entering the hut unannounced, as was becoming his pattern, Ernestine stiffened, but when the Jarl squeezed the woman with the kind eyes, she breathed out her escalating anxiety. Hilda must be his wife. He wasn't a lecherous old man after all, because they acted natural together, much like her own mom and dad. Oh, everyone should have a mom and dad such as mine. What was all the inspection and special attention about then? Then a different, potentially dangerous and depressing thought seeped into her consciousness. She was being prepared for someone else. Is that what this is all about? They have some horrible misfit of a son who can't get his own woman. So, Papa, was she brought here as a token from another raid? All the way from France? Eventually they did sack Paris. Is that how Papa came to be here? And what is my part in this? Is this punishment for dabbling in the occult? Did her job, assisting a professor looking for the answers to the universe, get her into this mess? Is that why she's here? This body doesn't belong to her, yet somehow she was intrinsically connected and felt responsible for what happened to this unknown woman's body while in her possession. I feel their hands on me. I have feelings for some of these people, and others, not so much. What do they say? Make the best of a bad situation? Right. The Jarl looked at her like a proud papa, and Hilda giggled and grasped at her heart. They were quite content with themselves, as they left, arm in arm.
Gratitude, a poem by Lipp. Thank you for family and friends who support us. Thank you for teachers and all that they taught us. Thank you for children who make my heart flutter. Thank you for scary, which makes my back shudder. Thank you for cats' gentle rumbles and snores. Thank you for ice cream and thick molten s'mores. Thank you for arms, elbows, noses, and hair. Thank you for touch and wanting to care. Thank you for calm. Thank you for crazy. Thank you for busy. Thank you for lazy. Thank you for sunsets and rainbows and dreams. Thank you for moonlight and chocolate egg creams. Thank you for summer's sweet, cooling breezes. Thank you for snow and for winter's deep freezes. Thank you for lions and tigers and birds. Thank you for books. Thank you for words. Thank you for water and fire and earth. Thank you for death. Thank you for birth. Thank you for sorrow. Thank you for joy. Thank you, oh, thank you. Thank you for joy. Thank you for puddles and cuddles and caring. Thank you for giving. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for music and dancing and song. Thank you that we may make right what is wrong. Thank you for night and the stars that astound us. Thank you for seeing the beauty surrounds us. Thank you for rain and the wind in my face. Thank you for wonder. Thank you for grace. Thank you for pain and the kindness to bear it. Thank you for love and the wisdom to share it.
A poem by Dennis Martin Piana titled Borders. No matter what their name says, flying squirrels cannot fly. Wingless and web-legged they run, leap, and glide from trees to roof, poles to wire. They'll even walk the taut line of our Golden Lab's run to tease her, but never go any nearer the river than where the run ends. Flying squirrels cannot swim, skate, ski, and do not migrate or hibernate. When the trees drop their leaves, they ruminate in our eaves and wait for our quiet like ghosts. They cannot sleep when they scurry, scratch claw, roll their nuts like balls along the beams between the walls, and whenever they stop, I hear them chewing on who knows what. Do you think they're storing food or shooting pool? My wife asks with a laugh. She stops laughing when I say, they'll destroy our house. It's us or them. No guns, Joe. I don't want any guns in our house. I don't need a gun, Gladys. I gotta have a heart trap your mother gave us. Good. And the river. No, Joe, you can't take them across. You know the law. I do. And I also know the nature of the beast. Each one I catch, I'll grab by the tail and fling them across. God, Joe, you sound like Trump. You voted for him, didn't you? This is our house.
Man Singing by Beth Filson. Staff want to medicate him for singing, but do not have a court order, so now must listen to him singing. His voice echoes up the concrete wall from the courtyard below, slips into the day room where the meeting is being held, where they're discussing patient treatment plans. It's almost spring, an extraordinary kind of day, a day when it is still possible to work here and not know the word irrevocable, certainly not irrevocable loss. Someone gets up from the table, shuts the window. He still sings. You bow your head to blue-lined paper, doodle a bit to hide your smile. You are rooting for him. He's been going at it for 10 days straight. The night nurses say, no, he hasn't slept at all. But you know, this just means that when he sleeps, staff takes up his song. No matter how the psychiatrist presents it to the judge, manic vocalizations with delusional overtones punctuated with schizoloupic transgressions of the superior kind, or some such garbage, for it is all garbage. The judge will not relent. Yesterday on the unit, where the third hearing was taking place to secure a court order to let the hospital administer drugs against the will of the singing man, the judge said, "Can you get the other patients to sing along?" This is not a novel idea as far as you're concerned, but you are not a doctor, not one of the nurses running the unit. You got your social work degree by scraping by in college because you were balancing the firstborn and the man you'd partnered with, not really knowing who either was. Or you knew just enough to understand that the universe is actually only as big as what one tends. Yours is a small patch of dirt as like the next person's, and boundaried on all four sides with the love you have. Someone across the conference table groans, says, "Can we at least get a nurse to bring him in?" "Why?" You catch yourself by surprise. A bit of heat rises from your neck to your cheeks. You're looked at in a new light. You raise your chin just a bit. This is like saying that the universe is much larger than previously imagined.
A poem by Elizabeth A. Richter, titled At Last We Meet. The ocean shakes and roars before me, breaking the bounds of the shore. Like a mighty elephant, it rears up on its hind legs and trumpets majestically, and I reach out with all I am to embrace it. At last we meet. What happiness! My ocean, sings my soul. My ocean, my ocean, my ocean.
Now We Are Four, an essay by Celia Jeffries. I can still see Sally and me standing in our bridesmaid outfits at her sister's wedding. She looked enough like me for people to have confused us when coming through the receiving line. Enough alike for the secretary in her office to look up at me and say, "Oh, you must be Sally's sister." I laughed both times. Fast forward 4 decades. Mass marketing is offering kits to find your heritage. Spit in the vial and mail it off. Results in 3 to 6 weeks. An email arrives from Sally telling me her DNA on Ancestry.com says we're related, and that the photos she found of me on Facebook show us looking even more alike than 30 years ago. When she contacted me, Sally was gentle and direct, telling me the DNA results and saying she didn't want anything from me. When I told her I was registered with 23andMe, she sent off her own precious bit, and 2 weeks later we both received emails on our father's birthday. You share 25.6% of your DNA. We predict she is your half-sister. How do you take in a new sister? One who was born 2 weeks before your other sister. One you already knew quite well because she lived on the same street the whole time you were growing up. One who went to church with you. When we met after the revelation, I sat on the deck watching her talk. With a hat on her head, large sunglasses over her eyes, all I could see were her lips, cheeks, and neck. It was just like watching my father talk. In many ways, she looks more like him than anyone else in our family. This is what you do when you find out you have a new sister. You look for the familiarities. You look for the connection. You project your own needs and wants onto this new relative, and you begin to rake over the past. I like Sally. She's funny and fun, and we get each other. When people see our photos, they say, "Who needs DNA?" I can describe the inside of their house and can see her mother clearly, sitting in the kitchen after dinner with a drink in her hand, on the phone using a plastic device created to save her pink fingernails when dialing. What I can't see, have no memory of, is any time her mother and my father were together, even though they socialized and moved in the same circles for years, even though there are photos in the family album of them at parties and neighborhood gatherings, and one photo of both sets of our parents on the beach in Nantucket. That photo always intrigued me, now more than ever. What surprises me is that I feel no shame attached to finding out Sally is my half-sister. The sins of the father seem far removed at this point. I can connect the dots now. Is there a myth about sisters who were unaware they were sisters? There's that Greek fate thing, of course. You can leave town in order not to sleep with your mother, but it happens anyway. You can be dipped in a river, held by the heel and given great strength, but that undipped heel will get you. You could ignore what looks obvious, but it will reappear later. So now we are 4, 3 sisters and a brother. Last fall we got together for lunch down the road from the candy store where my father used to take all 4 of us for treats after church. When we asked a tourist to take our photo sitting on the bench outside, she held up the cell phone and then said, "Oh, you're brothers and sisters." We smiled and said, Cheese.
A poem by Dina Friedman titled Bethlehem. After In Tall Grass by Carl Sandburg. In the dead horse's head, the bees are making honey. The grass is long and harbors ticks. In Bethlehem, women stashed their babies in caves away from crazy King Herod, who tried to kill their children for fear they might be gods. There's been a recent reveal that ticks were engineered to carry Lyme, an experiment in chemical weaponry. Soldiers searched for the Bethlehem babies, carrying swords. Did they kill by slicing the gut, the heart? Did they cut the head, leaving it to bees? Did bees make honey in the babies' heads? Were there flowers in the desert? What did the wise men bring? What was forgotten? The honeycomb, the short lives of drones, and babies who might have been gods, the wails of mothers whose babies were seized, the crazy king's queen killed out of jealousy, the queen bee dying when she finished making honey in the horse's head. What's left? The venomous bite of the tick. The granddaughter, Salome, her voracious appetite for heads on platters, and the mad buzz of modern despots who cage children crossing borders. The dark jar of honey. The ticks. Uzis. Schoolyard children beheaded by bullets. Are there flowers in the desert? What will the wise men bring?
Dogs in the Pandemic, a poem by Lynette Sweeney. Our dogs don't understand social distancing, are just happy to have us here at home where they always knew we belonged. My dog never strays more than 6 feet from me now, wonders why anyone ever would. Out for a walk, our dogs strain to bring us closer to fellow creatures. Don't get why we won't let them receive their usual pets on the head from friendly neighbors, now kept a mysterious leash distance away. This week, my dog is barking less at the out-the-window passerby, even muting her cries against the male murderer, whom she previously kept at bay most days with her most vicious-sounding barks. Our dogs have surely always understood better than we did how precious connection is. They sense now how we've grown glad to see even the mail come to our door. Maybe our dogs feel our new eagerness for a letter from a friend, and they approve.